Welcome to Improv Your Parenting, the art of turning parenting into play. Today we're joined by Diana Hart. Diana has 30 years experience in the improv field as a student, performer, and facilitator in the San Francisco Bay Area. She believes that theater creates community and fosters courage, generosity, and imagination. She's currently leading a women's play lab in Portland, Oregon, and she's grateful to have playtime every day with her young granddaughters. Since 2009, she's been a member of the Applied Improvisation Network, a global community of improvisers dedicated to bringing the improv mindset off stage and into workspaces, classrooms, and homes. She's collaborating with others to explore improv and parenting. The power of improv to create community and foster healthy relationships is a continual source of wonder and inspiration. Diana, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I would like to start with an introduction of who you are, your background, and your interaction with children.
My name is Diana Hart. I'm currently living near Portland in Oregon, and I moved into a home with my daughter, her husband, and two granddaughters. One's 7 and one's about to turn 4. I moved from Northern California up to here at 23. My improv journey started in the mid-90s, 1990 something, 4 maybe. And it wasn't the usual entry. I didn't watch an improv show and think, oh my God, I want to do that. I went through a really catastrophic personal tragedy. I lost a child and I was flattened, as you can imagine. Somebody I knew who did theater and improv classes called me up and said, I'm doing a class. Come and be my guest. I just want to offer this to you. And I said, what a horrible idea. I can't imagine wanting to do that.
Why would anyone do such a thing?
Why would anyone want to do that? But she kept after me, and I did it after a series of classes. I was watching two guys do a scene. One was a teenager, one was in his 40s. And they were so funny. I was half leaning on a wall. That weak with laughter, I slid down the wall. It was like the water of life, Jeremy, honestly. It brought me back. Shortly after that, she said to me, Diana, improv is about showing your heart. That got me. I said, I'm in. After that, I was all in. I don't think I ever missed a class.
Wow.
And at some point, I used to perform some, but my focus has always been improv as a healing art and a spiritual art and a life skill. That's my approach to improv. My first AIN conference was the one in Baltimore. I don't remember when it was.
Okay.
And I thought, this is the world I want to live in. You've been to conferences probably, where there's agreement and support and positive ways of working through, and where problems, difficulties come up, it becomes a running joke through the whole rest of the con. Oh, this is so great. So all my teaching has been about improv in real life. And that's where I'm living from with my being part of a family. Lost my autonomy, but I gained a lot of other stuff.
Wow, that's
So
quite a journey.
it
Yeah.
is quite a journey.
For those who don't know, AIN is the Applied Improv Network, and those are people who use improv in the real world. So the lessons of improv and how does everybody else use what's learned here? Is that
Right.
wonderful? Do you use improv in what you do with your grandkids now? Is that part of your experience?
Yes, I do all the time. But when I say use improv, I mean I'm using the improv mindset where
Okay.
I'm paying close attention. I'm playing the scene I'm in. Trying not to drive it.
Yeah.
Just supporting generosity, benefit of the doubt kind of thing. And then I also play games with them,
Okay.
improv games with them. But that's how I use improv. It's an ongoing thing from the time we wake up. I think
Yeah.
I mentioned in a message to you about the Fairy Cafe.
Please tell me more about that.
But the Fairy Cafe started shortly after I moved in, where I have my own little apartment attached to the house. So I have my own little kitchen. The older girl, who was 5 at the time, loves to dress up and be a character. They started coming down in the morning as princesses or fairies. They were on a journey and they were stopping at my roadside cafe. And I would take their order. And then I started offering them breakfast in my kitchen. So that's when it really became the Fairy Cafe. At first, they would show up as characters. One of my favorites, they were the Eiffel Tower statues come to life, but they had costumes for that. They were two moms on a date. That was hilarious. They had pearls and purses.
So they're creative.
They're both very creative. And then I would be Mrs. Whistlestop, or every day I was a different person, Mrs. Birdbeak or something.
Yeah.
And then I would have to guess who they were,
Oh,
often challenging.
yeah.
So that kind of creativity goes on. And their dad is very hilarious and a designer, and their mom's a dancer. So it's a creative field
Yeah.
that we're in.
So you mentioned in terms of meeting sort of them where they are, experiencing
Yeah.
what's going on there.
Right.
When you are interacting with the kids, is it that you come in and you're like, here's an improv game, let's play? Or is it more of this is what's going on? What feeds into this that allows us to heighten whatever's taking place?
Exactly what you just said. It's much more joining, the concept of you join the scene. The other place I use it a lot is transitions. Like, how do we get out of the house on time?
How do you do that?
Does that create some tension in your household?
That is good. Yeah. Listen, great.
So if they're in the middle of something, I join what they're doing. And then it leads, and it might be, it becomes a parade of ducklings up the stairs to the bath, or princesses on parade or something. But first I join what they're doing. One time I walked into the living room, and the oldest, I think she was 5 then, she was laying on her back on the floor. And I wanted them to do something, I don't remember what, but I just started pulling her around by her legs on the floor. And she started creating a poem. She just started, it was amazing. It got
Yeah.
a little dark, and then it got like, and then from that, we moved into what the other thing we were going to do. But the spontaneity you get from using improv in however you use it, playing the games, doing the exercises, it leads to some freedom of expression. And
It really does. One of the things I love about what you said there is that you were just going with what she offered. You joined in, and then I love the poem got dark and it got light again. And one of the questions I have for you, based on the timeline you gave in the interaction you have with your grandkids, was improv a part of the raising of your daughter, or was it not yet?
I wish it had been more, because I
Yeah.
was really just trying to survive. She was 7 and her brother was 10 when their sister was killed. And I was working. My marriage broke up, a
Yeah.
lot going on. But we always played games, did silly walks and all kinds of things. I was still a little early in my improv journey. I use a song a lot, where if I wanted them to clean up, I would sing fake opera. And that would get them moving.
Really?
Stop wearing your duckle.
I gotta try that one. Yeah.
So there was always some kind of playfulness. So
Were your parents playful with you as
Ah.
you were growing up, or was that
I was born in 1944. I'm
Mhm.
80 now. So no, that was not the time of parents. They were authoritarian.
Yeah, no.
My mom was gentle. My dad was interesting. My dad also did a lot of theater. He did community theater, and he even taught improv. He told me he was co-teaching with somebody once, and the guy, when somebody would do something, he would always say something positive and encouraging, even if it wasn't great. And that was an eye opener to my dad, because that was not in his consciousness
Oh, really?
to say supportive things.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a little mean. And I never wanted anything to do with theater.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, I find myself somewhere in the 2000s teaching improv. And I go, how did this happen?
exactly.
This was not in the book, not in the picture.
I love that. See, this is not the map I made.
No.
So then how did you go from the parenting that you had to being
Right.
playful yourself pre-improv to then exploding with playfulness after you discovered it?
Interesting. I thought about that. I did something called Children the Challenge. I think now it's called Positive Parenting. It was based on taking time to train, having clear boundaries, logical consequences for things. And I just knew I wanted to do it differently.
Yeah. Not that
You
you're,
know,
yeah.
yeah, I was in a time where dads earned a living
Yeah.
and moms did the home stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to be much more positive with my kids.
And it sounds like you were able to do that even before you
Yeah.
discovered this thing.
Oh, yeah, that was the track I was on. I also was a Zen student. I was part of a Zen culture for a long time, lived at Tassajara Monastery for a year, and I consider improv very Zen. I call it Zen on a stick. And
You're very much in the moment and you're living in that space of what is happening now and how do I
right,
feel about it?
how do I enter in?
And what's the offer being given?
What's the offer?
And so when you're interacting with your grandkids, and you get to this level of playfulness, is there a point at which you're like, okay, guys, we got to bring this down? Or do you just keep going because, hey, it's great. Let's keep playing it up?
I can't think of a time it got too heightened, but I could see that happening with middle schoolers
Mhm.
or teenagers.
Yeah.
One example of that I thought of was after supper time, and their mom and dad had to go up to the office we have on the land here and do some work. They did not like it. They were yelling,
Oh, dear.
and they were in the living room yelling. Oh, don't go up there. So I went into the living room and started yelling with them. Let's be louder. Let's don't. And then that became like walking and stomping in different ways across the living room floor. Like, how else can we walk? If they go, oh, little tiny steps. And then it seemed to have a natural transition. I don't remember that it got crazy or wild, but I love heightening. The other thing I do with them sometimes is I just mimic their movements subtly, not so they think I'm copying them or mocking them, but I just move the way they move.
Yeah.
Creates a field of joining and agreement
Yeah.
that other things come out of that.
And if they started interacting with you in a playful, improvisorial way as well.
Here's what the older girl is very bright and mental, and she always initiates. She'll come in, she'll say, H. And then I say, hat. And she'll say, haunted. She initiates
Right from the game.
word association. And I let her kind of run it. Like she'll choose the next letter and stuff. That's fun.
Yeah.
The younger one is she's an amazing psychodrama expert. She uses play to work through things she's bothered by.
Like scenario playing.
She was very mother attached when we moved here. She's only 2, and it was her first big move. If mom was away, she would be I think her dad and I timed it once, less than a minute, say, where's mom? Where's
Mhm.
mom?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't explain. You can say, oh, she's at rehearsal only so many times.
Yeah.
We were in the kitchen. There was a bowl of clementine oranges. I picked up an orange and I put it down in front of her and I said, this is mama. And I picked, no, this is papa. This is baby. This is sister. This is grandma. This is grandpa. She totally got into that. Then she started playing with that. In fact, later that day, I offered her a clementine. She went, Pa.
Oh, what are you got? No.
But then from that, she started a game with a doll where she'd start doing it with me. She'd point to me and she'd say, you the baby, I'm mama.
Yeah.
And she'd leave the room and she'd come back. And she said, you sad. And so I'd have to cry. And then she'd leave the room, she'd come back. And we played versions of that. Sometimes it was a doll she left. Sometimes it was her dad or me. And within a few days, she gave up that mama thing.
So she worked her way.
She worked her way through it.
People pay a lot of money for play therapy for their kids for that.
She's good.
Yeah.
Tooth Fairy, because her older sister loses teeth, and we play Tooth Fairy all the time.
Oh. She's preparing.
She's preparing. But one day there was one question you had. We were playing that game about mama, an elaborate version of it. Where's mama? And we were sitting together on the stairs. She was the mama, and she's sitting next to me. And all of a sudden, she opens her hands like a book.
Yeah.
And she looks in and she goes, there's a bear. And improv wise, I said, there's a bear? What are we going to do? I didn't go, oh no, that's not a bear. That was like, I'm thinking, why is there a bear? That about? And we chased it away somehow. We live right across the street from a high school. And her dad would take the girls over there, and the bear is their mascot. And there's all these scary statues and
Yeah.
graphics of a fierce bear.
Yeah.
And that's how she worked that out.
Oh, wow.
But I
That's
wouldn't
cool.
have ever known that if I had said, "Oh, no, that's too scary." And she's not afraid of the bear anymore.
So how is it then that you are able to pick up on whatever it is they're offering and do something with that? What skills are you pulling from for that? Where does that come from? And how do you do it in that moment?
Jeremy, I think it helps being a grandparent.
Yeah.
When you're a parent, you have that other agenda and
Everything
burden
else.
on. It is the joy of grandparenting where I have the time to spend with them and the time to listen. I'm not multitasking. I'm playing with the girls, mom's cooking.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it is I have the intention of
Yeah.
doing it, but I'm also not stressed. I'm stressed in ways, but not that much.
So a couple of things that I wanted to talk about is intention. As a grandparent, what is your intention with your interaction with these kids? Like, what's your priority here?
The biggest answer to that is legacy. I'm also working a lot on end of life issues.
Okay.
I did death doula training. I think there's a place to bring the improv mindset into that whole arena.
Yes.
So I want them to remember me in a way that they carry stuff forward, that this
Mm,
is how they can be. So that's the biggest answer.
yeah.
I want my life to be about heart, and that's heart's connection. Without connection, there isn't any love and interaction. So I don't want to miss opportunities to connect. And I want to treasure happiness. Because sometimes, like I was pushing them outside on the swing and we were playing games out there, and it was so peaceful and beautiful. And I started to feel happy. And I immediately had the thought, I should get in and start dinner.
Oh,
Why did I do that?
yeah.
Can I just allow myself to be in this gorgeous stretch of time,
Yeah.
timeless moment,
Yes. Oh,
or on the trampoline? Can I give myself that?
and have you been
So
able?
it's my effort every day. I've also been working a lot on anxiety stuff, and
Mm.
anxiety takes you out of the moment so freaking fast.
How do you
Yeah.
balance who's interacting with the kids and who gets to be the fun one and who gets to be the, okay, you got to go to bed now, guys.
I think we're pretty united in it. Nobody has to be the super disciplinarian.
Uh,
We do talk a lot about we're in agreement. Like now we're working on picking up all their stuff at the end of
yeah,
the day.
that'd be nice.
You know, we try to be all in agreement. And my daughter practices, well, and Brian, my son-in-law, the gentle parenting stuff.
Okay.
I saw a lot of stuff about authenticity and playfulness. One day I picked up the younger kid from school. And at the time that would throw her, where's mom? I want mom to pick me up. So she was in the back seat. I was trying to get her into her car seat to strap her in. And she was curled up in the corner.
Yeah.
You just, and this voice came out of me that I call my troll voice. It was like, get in the car seat
Oh,
now.
my.
And she got right in the car seat.
Yeah.
And so I said, that was my troll voice. Telling you to get in the car seat. That is not a gentle parenting technique, but it's not scary. You
Yep.
don't always have the patience to walk them through stuff.
And so how do you balance that moments when we're playing, we're doing this stuff, and then these other moments where now I'm in charge and we have to do this thing?
Right.
Where do you find that balance? Does it shift over time?
I think that's a constant practice because I bring the older girl to school in the morning and her school starts at 5 minutes to 8 and it's 20 minutes away. We got to pay attention to time. And the first, she's in first grade. Kindergarten sometimes was a little rough. As a formerly super anxious person, I don't want to make them anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just constantly trying to stay real about it. This is the time. We taught her about time, so she watches the clock. It's all those little things that make your life either hell or possible, you know?
Yeah. Do you find yourself in a power struggle? And if so, how do you fuse that to get to a place where stuff gets done?
Boy, power struggles with what do I do with that? I step back and let it happen. The 7-year-old will really flare up big time. And then a minute later, it's over. I've learned I don't have to do anything. Even with little kids, when they have a tantrum, it's best to step back and let it happen. Hold space, just hold space. You can't fix it.
Yeah.
But sometime in a power struggle with them, I've started doing something silly. They're just, no, I don't want to that, bit, and it breaks it for a minute. And that's all you need, break that spell. So something silly. There's a Zen story about some monk putting shoes on his head, like some moment of enlightenment and putting shoes on your head.
Have they turned that on you in any way to where at some point you might be upset?
They will catch me if I have a certain tone of voice. They call me, look at it. Yeah, sure. And they go, oh, why'd you say it like that?
Yeah.
They really
Come
catch
on.
tone of voice. So
Yeah.
I have to really, I go, oh, yeah, sorry. I was really wanting to finish this email. Okay, let me stop it. And then I give them attention.
So it sounds like when you fall out of the moment, things get a little
Yeah.
hard. And then when you
Yes.
come back to the moment, things are a little more interactive.
I think having an agenda, if you come into an improv scene and you decide, I want this to happen,
Mhm.
the scene's not fun.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to play with that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's going
And
to
I
tell
guess,
me who I am and what to do? And
yeah. And so it's giving them the space to say, how do we explore this together and see what occurs?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's a really great lesson to learn from this experience is that you're in that moment, you're exploring what's happening. You don't have here's the outcome that we're going to get to all the
right.
time. Sometimes you've got to get to school. Is it that you are able to work with mom and your son-in-law to balance out who does all of that stuff? How does that work in terms of the relationship?
Yeah, the reason I ended up moving here was I was living in Northern California. I would come up every couple of months and stay for a couple weeks. And they said, everything is so much better when you're here. They just had one child then.
Yeah.
And so we started looking for property that could have an ADU on it. I moved up here with the intention of being that person in the family that could make things better.
Yeah. That's great. And it eases the strain on everybody. Not everybody has to carry the same burden. Sweet.
Right. And my son-in-law created an office in a barn, one of the outbuildings here. And so he doesn't have a commute. He's very involved dad,
Oh,
very
nice.
funny and inventive and takes him on adventures. I feel like it's healing some of my dad stuff just to be around that level of
Oh,
parenting
wonderful.
that I'm sure you're offering your kids. You can't underestimate the power of a playful dad, a
Yeah.
dad who engages them and enjoys them.
You know, it's funny. And I'm going to make this the intro to these podcasts and the YouTube videos. But right now, I'm actually really struggling as a dad, to be honest.
Uh,
I do improv. I try to play with my kids. We often do. But I'm also doing this as a learning opportunity to just be like, "So what's working with other people? Because I'm over here and it's not working." But being in that moment and being able to let go of the outcome is a really powerful thing. And having that intention that I'm going to spend time with you, we're going to have a relationship.
right.
That is really the more important thing.
But your kids are from the picture, are they middle school, high school?
So one is 13, one is 10.
Oh my God. You need
Yeah.
help. Get massages.
Totally. But yeah, I want this to be about you. One of the things that I really would love is if you could, if you were talking to somebody who's becoming a caregiver for a kid, whether
Uh-huh.
it's parent, grandparent, babysitter, nanny, whatever, what about your experience bringing play, bringing fun, bringing the interaction in? Would you give as like your first step in this process?
I think it's slowing down and right there with them. It's like the give and take of an improv scene where you're both following and being the leader.
Mhm.
And 13-year-olds aren't real big on that in my memory.
Okay.
Oh, it takes such immense patience. But I think entering in is just noticing what's happening.
Yeah.
and breathing. You just have to allow permission for yourself. I'm going to
Yeah.
try this. I'm going to try bedtime's very challenging time.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's useful to really get some parenting skills down from somewhere,
Yeah.
whether it's positive. So you create routines. It's like we all have to figure our way through that one. Leading with the heart, but not the sappy heart, the fierce heart.
Here's hard.
I would add one thing to your last question. I use it with my daughter, and it might work with a teen. I do the game of last letter, first letter.
Yeah.
The
It's
la-
figured out just if anybody doesn't know it.
yeah, the last letter, say a sentence to
Mhm.
me in
Okay.
ours.
The day is hot.
So my sentence has to start with T because
Mhm.
hot ended with T. Too hot.
And so hot days are when I love going to the beach.
Good. And then when I do it in class, that's all we do is 3
Yeah.
sentences. They are invariably positive
Mhm.
comments, invariably. And I think it's the pause. And I use this game with my daughter because I'm an interrupter and she hates being interrupted. Hates it. So I practice just listening. And every sentence, I just notice whatever each sentence ends with. When I respond, I'm not responding with that letter, but it
Yeah.
keeps my mind quiet. The quietness of my mind, just listening, not forming a response, not wanting to jump in on that train, creates an atmosphere. And I'm wondering if that would be a helpful thing to do with teenagers. They want to argue and they say
Yeah.
stuff we got to argue with. That's not right.
I think it would be. And one of the great things about that is you don't even have to tell them you're doing it.
I
Right.
never say I'm doing it.
No, it's just more of an attention tool that you're using, which I think is tremendous because it slows you down
Yes.
and thus it slows us down
Right.
and gives us the space we need. I think that's fantastic.
I've been looking at transition times from bedtime, meal times, getting out of the house to school.
Yes. Those are tough.
And what I've noticed is there's not a lot of ways improv helps so much, except that the concept of joining. It's a time for us to join and work together and have some flow. I found doing improv games fosters connection. And with our 7-year-old who can go into dysregulation pretty quickly, I've been doing an exercise where not in the middle of a meltdown or something, but just in a moment in the day, just stop and gently look around. Let your eye find something that catches your eye. We could even say, let's look for red. When your eye lands on red, just notice it in a friendly way and then allow it to notice you.
What do you mean by that?
Just let it look. It will look back at you if you allow it. Try it. It works. It just gently looks back at you and just nod and then
right.
maybe say, let's look for circles or
Yeah.
and then if you find a circle, just it's the pause,
Awareness. Yeah.
awareness and connecting with something outside of yourself, but it's not a person, which can be a charge. It's a very neutral thing. And it does something relaxing to the brain. I've used it when I've been in a doctor waiting room and I'll just look around looking for yellow. It occupies my mind in some way and anxiety doesn't enter. This morning, I bring the 4-year-old to school, which can sometimes be challenging. This morning, it went very smoothly, but she was fed. She's ready to go, dressed. But then it's, oh, I want mama to bring me. And no, it's us. But we had time for a game, and there were these 2 wacky little figures. And I just started talking. I make everything talk for her. Oh, honey, look who's here. And she entered right into it. So I think it's helped me to notice where's the entry for each kid to get us joined together.
You create a joint team experience where you're playing together from the same perspective,
Right.
interacting with the world as a unified group rather than adult child.
Come on, we've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Get your hair brushed. When go out the door with all that anxiety, pressure.
Exactly. One of the things that I think parents often struggle in that space is the sense of obligation to the world as well as the interaction with the child and where the two have friction against each other.
Well said. The obligation to the world. I never thought of it like that, but yeah,
Yeah.
we're in the middle.
Yeah. We're trying to do the thing in that transition time, often forgetting that the child is a person who has their own needs and dealing with whatever they're dealing with, which chances are overwhelming.
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, he doesn't want to leave home.
Cool.
She'd rather stay and
Yeah.
play.
More fun.
Her mom teaches Pilates, so she
Uh-huh.
had gone off to teach a class.
Oh.
Yeah, they want what they want.
And so then you create this sort of, we're on the same side.
We're on the same side.
That helps a lot.
And then she set it up that we were going, and she had this heart ornament. She said, I'm gone. You can look at my heart. She said goodbye to them. I wish I'd brought them in here. Their figures are made out of a whole bunch of found objects, so they're very wacky looking. There's a tall one and a short one. Then she got into the car. We got her strapped in and played I Spy on the way to.
Nice. And it gets you focused and the brain isn't spinning. I love that approach. It's very engaged. And it's not a dictatorial so much as how do we experience this time?
But I like how you put it, the obligation to the world. That just creates anxiety for me. And that just doesn't work.
Despite our best efforts, it never.
Yeah. Sometimes it sneaks in.
And when you recognize you're doing it, you're looking at yourself like, what the hell?
It doesn't work any better in parenting than it does in an improv scene.
Yeah, it's less effective.
It's not work.
Useless.
It may work in the moment, but it doesn't teach anything or create anything for the future.
No, I
mean, the other thing about our play this morning, I said, we have time to play a little. And then we just started playing with what was there.
Nice.
I saw those dolls were there and I just started talking. And she created the rest of the story.
Oh, very good. Yeah. And so that gives her the creative license and it gives her the time.
Yeah.
And she has the agency in that time with that license to do whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She loves to play and she loves when there's a little time to play before school. I was happy we were able to honor that without it becoming one of the elaborate plays of Mermaid or Tooth Fairy or other things. So that's one area. And meal times. How do you guys deal with meal times?
Varying levels of success and failure. How about you?
We're constantly working on it.
I want to dive into that particular part because I think that's key. We're trying a bunch of things, literally throwing Jello at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's going to be effective. And you're going to be like, whoa, really? That's what worked? But a lot's not. You mentioned something essential. We're not taking that on and being like, I failed. It was this idea that wasn't effective in this moment with the child who is there right now. Because it might work with that same kid at a different time of day, different mood. Totally different.
Yes. What did I learn? There was a good piece of improv advice ages back, and it was a throwaway from Casey Clem, who's one of the wonderful people at Bats Improv in San Francisco. He said, if you leave class or a show going, oh my God, that was so awful. Let's see, why did I do that? Notice what happened and notice the choice you made and go, oh, I could have done this choice.
Yes.
I could have tried this. Just turn it into a learning and take it out of that shame pit.
Yeah.
I'm not good at this.
Every improviser I talk to has gone through that period of time where they just beat the crap out of themselves about everything. Right. What could I have done rather than smacking yourself with what you did?
Notice the feeling of, oh, that didn't feel good. Oh man, I missed that offer. Boy, I took that on board. And I think that applies to other things as well.
Yeah, because there's so much in parenting where you're just like, totally didn't work out the way I thought.
Why did I think that would work?
Yeah, so you're starting to beat yourself up. Why did I think that? But I love that guidance of what could have worked in that space. Next time this comes up, here's a couple of things I could try that may or may not work, but at least it's different than this thing that clearly was a dumpster fire.
It takes it more. We talked about the playground and the proving ground and the battleground, but it takes it a little more into the playground for me because it's curious. Again, there's curiosity.
Yeah.
That might have worked. Oh, this little bit of it could do. Maybe I'm going to try that again with this little tweak.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is too, that maybe the tweak is the exact right thing who that child was in that
Who
moment.
that child is.
And
Yeah.
you never see that kid again.
Oh my gosh. When I was parenting my kids,
Yeah.
I had to be a different parent for each kid. Their needs were different.
Yeah.
Some things were in common, but a lot of stuff. My son, I had to actually physically touch him
Mm.
and look right at his face. And with my daughter, the younger one, she heard you. In fact, if you raised your voice, she thought you were yelling.
Yeah.
Even a slightly loud voice was yelling to her.
Yeah.
So she was easier in that way.
Yeah. And so you find an approach that is as close to effective with each individual kid, and it's going to be
Right.
different between them. And then as they evolve and mature, it's going to change because whatever
Right.
they need is changing. And so you're constantly having to, so what's going to work today?
Yeah.
Figure out.
It's very
oh,
improv-y, isn't it? Because
yeah.
you're on your feet in a scene.
Yeah.
And like this came at me. Whoa.
Yeah. And it just gets to what's on offer right now and how do I
What's
respond?
on- Yeah.
So what is my child offering me with their body language, with their words, with their mood?
Yeah.
What are they saying? What are they projecting out? And then how do I take that and make something work?
I like that you mentioned body language. With our improv eyes, we are taking it all in if we're present, because the words and body don't often work together.
Sure.
One morning, trying to get the younger one dressed, and she did not want to be dressed. We're in her room and she's just fighting it. I just said, okay, I'll be back in a minute. Went out, took a breath. I came back in, picked up her little dress and started putting it on over her head. And she puts her little arm out, gets into the dress and mutters, I'm just going to let her do what she wants. So she cooperated, but
Yeah.
I gave up words. I gave up words because we were going to be in a power struggle. If I said,
Yeah.
come on, we need to get dressed. It's time to leave. No,
Yeah.
we don't need to talk about it. So knowing
Yeah.
when to, I have fun with kids at 4 years old. They will be cooperative even if they're saying no, if you stay calm.
And I wonder with that is what is the price of that? What's going on inside of them that is letting that happen?
In this case, I don't want to cause that.
Yeah.
She wanted to play. She had a game going on with her
Uh-huh.
doll, and it just wasn't time for it. So
Yeah.
I think if I had been really angry and
Yeah.
forcing, that would have been a bad thing.
Definitely.
But I was very calm, and it was just, this is simply what's happening. We're just shifting.
Yeah.
And she gave it up. If she hadn't wanted to give it up, believe me, we would all.
That would have been, yeah, I get that. No, and I think that's important too, is staying calm and just being like, this is how it is.
This is how it is.
And it's not my choice. We all have to get dressed and want to put on my pajamas right at this moment. But I think so, since we both have to be dressed because we're doing this thing, let's do it together or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was very easy to get out. But if I had gone into all the reasons why,
Oh.
it just wasn't. There's a place for that, but this wasn't
Yeah.
the place for it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is moment by moment, and that worked in that moment for that
Yeah.
kid.
There you go.
Yeah.
You had mentioned as well about illness of the parents.
Mm.
And I think there's some back problems with the dad. Tell me a little bit about what happens in that kind of situation.
I can talk more about my own when I've been
Sure.
sick
Yeah.
as a parent. If I'm sick as a grandparent, I'm not under the same pressure. I
Yeah.
can just look like I'm in my room today. I just noticed they got more clingy and it was hard. It was just hard.
Yeah.
With Brian, we've got a 3-adult team here. So he's usually up helping Mona, the 4-year-old, get dressed. And he just couldn't do it this morning. But fortunately, she was very cooperative. But it's just hard to adult when you're not feeling good. He's got work pressures, and I'm sure he'd like to be lying down, but
Yeah.
he's up at his office working.
Oh.
But we're there to help. Kids aren't gonna.
I've noticed with my kids that as they've gotten older and more aware, they've gotten much more helpful, particularly when I'm down. And when my wife is down, it's fascinating because it's a different event.
Different thing.
Yeah. When she's down, they break down. But when I'm down, they're like, oh, how do we help? Why do you guys fall apart when mom's down? Mainly
It
because she
reminds
spends
me
a lot
of
more time
their
with her.
ages. They're older than
Yeah,
my kids,
13 and 10.
13 and 10. Yeah. So I got 7 and 4.
They're not there yet, but
Right.
maybe as they get older and they have that greater sense.
The 7-year-old, that was because I hurt my knee. It's not anything like the back, but it's not fun. She can be very helpful,
Oh, good.
but she has to want to.
Yeah. It's funny that intrinsic motivation is so essential to pretty much achieving anything with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's how do we find a way that as they develop, we are enabling them to build that intrinsic motivation about helping, about
Right.
being part of the family, part of the team. That's something we've definitely been working on. We'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah. Positive reinforcement. I do really try to notice things and say that I noticed in a way that isn't praise. Wow, that felt good to me. It probably felt good to you too that you did that.
I really appreciate help with carrying this
We
thing.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because I think that moves things in that direction. And then if I'm not feeling well, I get cranky. I think most of us
Of course.
we're short tempered. And then improv stuff can help with that.
What do you do
Just
for that?
Noticing my mood and using anything at my disposal from improv or meditation to just know this is on me. I can shift my outlook here. Or at the very least, be authentically true and say, God, I just feel bad today and I'm cranky.
And that's okay.
Yeah. What does the 4-year-old call me? Granchy. She said I was granchy.
I love it. Yeah.
What a great word. I'm a crabby grandma. I'm granchy.
Oh, she's creative.
And just through the moments of delight. One thing I did years ago that I think helps is write down the things that were driving me crazy, like lying or something. Make a little list and then check in on that in 3 months. And it was surprising to me how much what really annoyed me then had shifted.
That's great.
Yeah. That's not improv. Just noticing, I think. Always being on that learning field.
I was talking to my wife about something and I said, I'm always learning. That's one of the things that I really appreciate about you is you're always trying to learn something.
Yeah.
And it's in parenting, that's all we're doing is we're learning who is this person?
Right.
How does one interact with this person?
And who am I?
Yes, to interact. And there's so much variable in that space.
Yeah.
That just being open to that learning actually is huge. Yeah. Yeah. There's something really there about just having that learning mindset.
I think your kids would be picking up on that as well, whether they know it or not.
I would hope so.
You're in that field. I just think that matters to kids. And I do say that a lot about how I'm always learning.
And maybe as people are coming into parenting, rather than approaching it as, I know, they could approach it as, so what? Here, how does this? What's happening here? And how do I contribute?
Yeah, we're always in beginner's mind with improv, I feel. At least that's my hope. I would hate if somebody ever came up to me and said, I don't want to work with these people. They're beginners. I'm like, well, don't say that to me.
Yeah. Because every scene you come into, you're starting with nothing. Yeah. And so without a beginner's mind, what do you have?
What do you have? There's so much more you don't know.
Exactly. So, and you'll discover. That's what most of improv is, discovery.
So bringing discovery to parenting is a helpful thing.
I love that. Bringing discovery to parenting.
Yeah. Because you said we're learning it all the time. You don't know how to parent a teenager until you got teenagers.
Exactly. I tell my son all the time, I was like, you are the first 13-year-old boy I've ever been the parent of. And luckily, you'll also be the last one.
Oh, God. 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Yeah, we are trailblazing here, guys.
Right. So having a sense of humor about ourselves, because the stakes are high with kids.
Yeah.
Don't you worry. Oh God, I'm going to mess them up. They'll always have issues. I did learn that with
Yeah.
my own kids. You can do so much and they'll remember that thing you did.
Oh, totally. But that's the thing is if you're just on a journey of discovery with them, every day is a new opportunity to explore and discover. And you have that mindset of, oh, what am I going to learn today? I don't know. Oh, I'm open to it. I love that.
That's the ideal. Some days we won't meet it,
No. Yeah.
but then we'll get another chance, take a breath, get another chance.
We won't destroy them in that process.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll see, yeah, they're just trying to figure it out too. So maybe as I try to figure things out, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's respect for learning and respect for blowing it. And sometimes that need to apologize.
Exactly.
And I do try to reinforce, look, even if you can hear me being so annoyed about what happened, what just went on here, I love you. Don't ever think just because I yelled here that I don't love you. Oh, I've also been trying to do more touch during the day, like a light touch with the 7-year-old who can get so dysregulated, really, like in the middle of something, I'd love to just grab her and hold her, but that doesn't work at that time. But whenever there's a chance, I pull her in close and next to me. She's gangly, but she likes to sit on my lap. And I've said, look, this has got to work for both of us. Which means squirming around doesn't really work for me. But if we can snuggle, let's do that. Even just a light touch on the shoulder or arm, like when we're talking. Making an effort to do that because I think that helps her.
It's funny you say that about the touch, is that I learned over the course of particularly my son's growing up, that's something he really likes, but he doesn't necessarily talk about it. And when I rub his back, he does this. And my first response was, oh, you're trying to get me off? He's like, no, I'm moving my body to help. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so it took some communication for us to realize that he liked this thing that I didn't know he would like or not. And so we have this affection and this physicality that is surprising to me. But yet I regularly go back to it because one, I just enjoy touching him and having that connection. And two, it seems like he likes it too, which is great. I agree. It's regulating for him of having dad warm, calm right there. Luckily, he doesn't sit on my lap. And it's amazing how bony butts are.
Oh, man. I was also reflecting the improv stuff for me. We also do games, which are lots of fun, but it's more of the improv mindset stuff like curiosity, discovery, developing some patience, like respecting pauses. I found in improv performing or with a class, respecting pauses. Amazing things happen. The whole scene can go a different way after a pause. And I think that's true in life too. I was asking the 7-year-old this morning what she liked about when we did improv games. And she just said, oh, it's fun. I love it. And we've been doing mind meld.
Oh,
She's really good at mind meld.
Oh, wow.
We do a lot of word association and Danish clap. I think I might have mentioned that before. Your kids might like Danish clap. It's lots of mistakes.
That's great.
And then she laughs the most during Danish clap. She just loves it. And it's also a good physical activity to get energy out in a tough situation.
Being able to throw games in and have something, particularly if there is stress or heightened energy. This morning, my daughter was really struggling because our plans had changed in the morning based on some outside influences. And she was getting very frustrated. And so I just stuck out my hand and I was like, okay, slap me to the right, slap it to the right. Now, slap it to the left. Okay, great. Now, slap it both directions at the same time. What?
I love that. I'm going to follow that.
Yeah, and I had never done it before. I didn't know where that came from. But
you never did it with your parents.
No. But the physicality of it broke that frustration that she was holding. And it was just enough to get her to, okay, so now what are we going to do with our schedule? And we can now figure it out. So stuff like that.
The idea of breaking the momentum, that's something to really explore. I did that a little bit by just putting a 4-year-old's dress on. It shifted it. If it hadn't shifted, I would have had to try something else, and you probably would have too. Oh, I love it. Love that.
I was in a training program a few months back, and the person to start a scene did this physical thing where they shook their body for 2 seconds. Whatever form they had at the end is how they would enter the scene. I was thinking a great way to break momentum is be like, body shake. Everybody just does something. And at the end of the 2 seconds, you come in and we have to interact that way. Would be a fun thing.
The physical games with kids are, the 7-year-old really likes them, but she's very much in her mind and she loves those kind of word games and things. Yeah. More physical stuff is great.
Balances out the heavy thinking.
And especially as they get older, I think they need more of that too.
Yes.
Just being a playful parent. And I don't think we have to sacrifice it with a parent to meet them on that play field.
No.
I know that the parents as friends or buddies, you still have to maintain that there's certain things you are in charge of.
Like safety, obviously.
We've been looking, we made a non-negotiable, who brings the kid to school.
Yeah.
They don't get to have input on that. And so we make that decision. They used to think they could make it, but no, we don't argue about that anymore. Other things, we can be a little more democratic. Bedtimes, we're in charge. That schedule got set up.
Exactly. And as they get older and they get more agency and responsibility, then as they demonstrate that, we could start talking about what makes sense.
Yeah, they have lots of room for input, so it's not like we're squashed.
Good.
Give and take is the thing we're working on.
Yeah.
With the young kids, because they want to be in give and take games. We're learning.
Okay. So what does that look like?
Like meal times to me are give and take, because we're give and taking conversation and we're give and taking space. And meal times still can be very hectic because we have some squirmy kids. They'll fall off a chair, like a fork drops. Every single meal, a fork drops.
In terms of falling off the chair, we bought these things called wiggle cushions. Do you know of these?
No. Could change
it's basically like an inflated circle. It has a texture on both ends. One, it doesn't slide on the chair surface. Two, it sticks to the bottom of the person that's sitting on it. It's air inflated inside, so you can wiggle all over it. It's called a wiggle cushion. Both kids have them on their chairs. They've had them for 5-6 years now. Nobody's fallen off a chair since. And yet they can still do all the machinations you need to do.
Right.
And it raises them a little bit at the table as well. So they're not like, hey, I can't even see my food. So if they're a little higher on relatable.
Well, not so much, but the 7-year-old, she was just sitting there the other day and all of a sudden the chair's flipped over and she's on the floor. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
You know? And she's completely puzzled. I was just sitting here.
Exactly. Suddenly something exploded. Check out wiggle cushions. They have been a godsend for us to keep people
such a thing.
From falling off. Meal times are fascinating. And more often than not, it's what were you trying to do? That's what I ask the kids because they'll break something, they'll knock it over, they'll throw a plate somehow. And what were you trying to do? Oh, I was just trying to reach this thing and it didn't work. And I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Trying to do. I like that.
It's very much you're working on something, it just didn't work.
That didn't work. And it's also a time of day when, everybody's a little cranky.
Sure. Yeah.
And you've gotten the meal and they're really good at appreciating most of the time. If I cook, they thank me. Thank you. Yummy. We worked on that. Not going, manners aren't the best. We're working on that. They're 4 and 7. Most days it's just a delight. I belly laugh at something they do just about every day. And it keeps me learning. It's pretty essential. I hope that's a recognized part of an improv mindset, is constantly learning.
Yeah.
Looking for more.
Where's the discovery?
Where's the discovery?
Yeah.
Breath is something. I just find myself taking a deep breath. And at one point, somebody gave me the coaching or gave the whole group the coaching, come into a scene on an out breath.
Okay.
And I found that really valuable because I tend toward anxiety. So then you come in an anxious thing. So I'm really paying attention to that before I even enter the kitchen to fix some breakfast. I enter on an out breath. If I remember.
Never thought of that. That's an interesting way to approach it, because if you come in on the out breath, it's the opportunity to then pause after that. You can then take in whatever's going to happen.
Feels receptive to me.
Yeah.
Like you can take it in. The
Yeah.
in-breath is I'm a little armored or
Exactly. Yeah, I'm
little
girding up for
edge.
this thing. Oh, wow. Yeah. So if I come in and highlight it,
yeah.
hey, what's here?
Yeah, what's here? And I guess just physically doing it, if you're in breath, then it's not.
Uh-huh.
Isn't
Yeah.
this flow? There's no flow.
One of the people I've interviewed was Susan Messing. And one of her go-to lines is loosen your crack. And so
She got her languaging is so delightful.
it's beautiful.
I've said that to me. Yeah. I'm not going to fold laundry the same way you do.
No. But I love that it actually aligns so perfectly with the out-breath mentality of you're coming in, relaxing rather than tightening as you end.
Ooh, that could even be your mantra.
Relax.
Relax your crack.
That. Susan Messing would love that if that became the mantra for this.
Oh, great. You got to talk to her. That's wonderful.
Oh, she's a godsend. Yeah, I've been lucky. We've had some great interviews in this.
Yeah. Oh, I could talk about improv in any context all day long.
Totally. Thank you so much, Diana.
Thank you. Relax your crack.
If you take nothing else.
Nothing else.